Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today's episode is loaded with updates from around the organization and some stuff that's really going on with the team. We've got a brand new signing that we've already known about, but it has been made official by the team. We have some clarity on the front office's stance on current extensions that are being discussed, whether they're done or not, and what to really expect with that moving forward in the upcoming days. And we've got a few contract specifics that kind of shed light on the team's long-term strategy and what they could potentially be doing next offseason. We're also going to say goodbye to a familiar phase that we know that the Hawks are parting ways with. However, he just got picked up earlier today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it and talk about how the Atlanta Hawks have officially signed veteran guard Luke Kennard. The deal was made official just yesterday. The team announced, per team policy though, the exact terms of the agreement weren't disclosed, but Hawks fans can safely be excited about what this addition means. So even though the details weren't necessarily disclosed, we know that it is a reported 1 year, $11 million deal, and this could just kind of be a test year, and they would probably want to bring him back for a long-term deal depending on how he performs this year. So in the PR email, General Manager Andy Saleh gave a strong endorsement. And obviously, Saleh has a real eye for talent, so these words are not to really be taken lightly. He said, "We're excited to add Luke to our group. He's a great connector, he's an elite shooter and proven playmaker with a high basketball IQ and team-first mentality. He fills multiple needs for us, which is true, and we believe he's going to make our team better." So a real endorsement from a GM who has had an incredible offseason so far. So Luke Kennard played 65 games for the Memphis Grizzlies last season, averaging 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 3.3 assists in just over 22 minutes per game. So that's good, real production in kind of limited minutes. He didn't play a whole lot, but his real value comes from behind the arc. I mean, he's valuable in other ways, but this is really his specific strength. So we've covered Kennard's game on this channel, but we're going to kind of go over it again to talk about, really, what he can provide to a team that really lacked shooting last season. So he shot 43.3% from three just last season and has now shot over 40% from distance in 5 straight seasons. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. According to Elias Sports, he's the only qualified player in the entire league to do that during that span. So one of one, it's him versus himself. He also shot a blistering 52.2% from corners, ranking him in the 95th percentile among all combo guards, according to Cleaning the Glass. If you're wondering whether he can heat up, he had a 30-point night against Utah back in March, shooting 7 of 9 from deep. He's done stuff like this on several occasions, so it's not just any sort of fluky game. This is someone who can really contribute. I mean, career-wise, Kennard holds a 43.8 three-point percentage, the highest among all active players, and it's actually the 3rd highest in NBA history. Only Steve Kerr and Hubert Davis have been more accurate from deep, just looking at pure percentages. Kennard is also an underrated playmaker, and Saleh kind of talked about this a little bit in his just small quote that was introducing him. He's someone who's not, he doesn't have the reputation as someone who can really put the ball on the floor and make the right reads, but his assists have been going up in the past several seasons, and last season he averaged 3.3 in 22 minutes. So if he continues to get minutes like that, he can really handle the ball at Atlanta's second unit, where they don't have a real facilitator in that second unit other than Kobe Buffkin, and we don't really know his situation and how much he's going to play. Kennard could have more ball handling responsibilities in Atlanta's second unit, and I think that's also part of the reason why they're not emphasizing bringing in a real backup point guard. They're comfortable with Kobe Buffkin running it, but they also have ball handlers like Kennard and Alexander Walker and Krejci, so they're confident, and maybe even Dyson Daniels can run that second unit. But Kennard's contributions aren't just beyond the arc. However, what he does from beyond the arc is absolutely spectacular. It's special. So I mean, he's also here in Atlanta now. Just yesterday, the Hawks posted that he had touched down. They posted the video of him getting off the plane. So now he has joined Kristaps Porzingis and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Asa Newell. All the new team additions are in town in Atlanta right now. All 3 players, we haven't seen videos of them meeting or whatnot, but I'm sure they have, and we expect a joint introductory press conference in the very near future. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to kind of, if that does happen very soon, we're going to cover it. Could be as early as the next few episodes. There was also I'm not covering this today, but the NBA Cup groups were announced, and so we're going to talk about that in next episode. That's completely off topic, but that's just something that happened like right as I'm recording this. So now we're going to talk about one of the big questions hovering over the team right now. It's the status of possible contract extensions for Trae Young, the Hawks franchise player, the four-time All-Star, and Dyson Daniels, last year most improved player, probably the best defensive guard in the NBA. Both became extension eligible this past Sunday, and we've been talking a lot about what the numbers of their extensions could possibly be. There's been nothing reported on that front recently. However, deals might be done behind the scenes. I know there was definitely some momentum with Trae's, just off of what I have heard. And then obviously we've seen rookies get, not rookies, but players that are eligible for their rookie extensions, like Dyson Daniels is. They've been starting to get their extensions. So we could see some news break regarding Dyson, especially in the coming days. Trae might not be as soon, but I do think they will get that done just based on everything I've heard. When asked about it, though, GM Antti Saleh gave a very direct answer. Here's what he said. So when asked about the, what's going on behind the scenes really with the extension, he gave a direct answer, and he said, I'll be honest with you guys, contractual stuff, and you guys are going to hate me for this, but I don't talk about any of that stuff publicly, whether it's TY or Dyson. That's not how I roll. So very clear in his answer that he would not, give any specifics. He didn't beat around the bush. He said directly that, he will not talk about it, and he's maintaining that kind of trust with his players. Now, on the surface, this may seem like he's dodging the question, but make no mistake, this is a strategic and professional move. In an era where transparency is often demanded, Saleh is choosing to protect internal dynamics and really maintain strong relationships with his players. Honestly, that's fundamental team building. That's square one. That's really good, developing chemistry with the players and, kind of keeping things confidential. Deals could still be in the works and, like I said, even be done behind the scenes. We're going to see more clarity on these two in the coming week or so. But for now, it's a sign that this front office operates with discipline and discretion, and very welcome change in the Trae Young era. They're operating with a real direction. So now we're going to talk about how a former Hawk is now headed to a new team. So Dominic Barlow, who the Hawks had last season, he agreed to a two-way contract with the Philadelphia 76ers, according to ESPN's Shams Charania. Barlow played in 35 games for Atlanta last season. He averaged 4 points and 2 rebounds in just under 11 minutes per game. He was pretty effective in the minutes that he played. However, there were glaring weaknesses, and he wasn't really fitting Atlanta's long-term vision. The Hawks declined his team option earlier this offseason, allowing him to hit restricted free agency, and obviously he was picked up by the Philadelphia 76ers on a two-way deal. So while his departure doesn't really shake up the core of the roster or the depth chart really, and obviously he played last season and he wasn't supposed to, but we had a ton of injuries and he found his way into the rotation. But he's someone who's young and has a lot of potential to be a good rotation player in the NBA. However, it just wasn't going to be here in Atlanta. It's worth noting that Barlow was a solid teammate and someone many in the organization believe had real rotational potential. Like I said, the fit just didn't align with Atlanta's long-term plans. But Hawks fans and everyone watching this and myself should still wish him well. I'm rooting for his career in Philadelphia, and I hope it really pans out. He's got the tools to make an impact in Philly's developmental system, and we're going to be keeping tabs on his progress, rooting for Dom Barlow. So now, speaking of new additions, we now have detailed information on Nickeil Alexander-Walker's contract. So it was obviously reported that it was a 4-year, $62 million deal. However, we didn't know exactly where it was starting and if it was a back-loaded contract or a front-loaded contract or if it was just flat. We now have the figures. So Hoops Rumors reports that the final figure is $60.6 million, a little less, with a few clever structuring choices. So let's break it down. So in year one, which is next year, it's going to be $15.16 million. So pretty standard. But year two is where it gets very, very interesting. It drops to $14.4 million in that second year. And just so coincidentally, Atlanta has been getting, these long-term contracts off the books before they extend their players and lock in this core. With the Hunter trade and then obviously, letting Capella walk and then now with the trading Terrence Mann and Georges Niang for the 1-year deal of Porzingis, it's going to be a good free agency class next year in Atlanta. just so coincidentally has Nickeil Alexander-Walker making less than he's making every other season in his 4-year deal in year 2. I think that's very intentional. And then year 3 it goes back up to 15.16 million, and then year 4 it goes up to 15.9 million. But on that year he does have a player option, whether he decides to opt out of it and try and get a more long-term deal with Atlanta or somewhere else where he can make more money. So be it. But it's a good contract and it's structured very strategically. He also has a 7.5% trade kicker, so there's some incentive there. So like I said, Atlanta will have more cap flexibility in the summer of 2026, and they're already expected to have some serious financial room, obviously, after the deals that I just talked about. It's a clear sign with this structure that the front office is thinking long-term while also wanting to compete now with a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who really has that dog in him, and he's someone who's going to contribute at a high level on both ends of the floor. They're positioning themselves really for a potential all-in summer next year. Depending on how this season unfolds, if Atlanta believes they are just right there and they need 1 or 2 more pieces for a title, they're going to have the cap space to do whatever they want. If this current group makes serious strides, don't be surprised to see Atlanta maybe pursue another star or perhaps even bring back a key piece at a higher price. So Nickeil's contract structure shows some financial discipline without compromising player security. It's a real win-win, and it's a good sign for the organization. A lot of good things going on. So to recap, Luke Kennard, the sharpshooter out of Duke, is officially a Hawk. It gives Atlanta another deadly shooter and smart connector and decent playmaker off the bench. The front office is staying tight-lipped about extensions for Trey and Dyson, but the message is clear. They're operating with intention and professionalism. We're going to say farewell to Dominic Barlow as he starts his next chapter in Philly, and we now know Nickeil Alexander-Walker's contract was structured in a way that sets the Hawks up with long-term flexibility and optionality. All 3 new additions are now in Atlanta, and that intro press conference could drop any day now, so make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss our breakdown of what they say and what to expect out of these guys moving forward into a very, very exciting season. So once again, I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.